Hello and welcome to Book of the Mouse Club episode 96, Thursday, November 17th, 2023.
Morning, monsieur.
Where are you off to?
The bookshop. I just finished the most wonderful story about a beanstalk and an ogre and...
That's nice. Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
I'm sorry, but how can one possibly pay attention to a book with no pictures in it?
My dear child, there are a great many good books in this world without pictures.
I almost bounced clear out of the book. Some bouncing, huh?
Come home or make myself known.
J. Thaddeus Turtle, Esquire. Have you never met him? You will find his story in this delightful little book, The Wind and the Willows.
I've come to return the book I borrowed.
Finished already?
Oh, I couldn't put it down. Have you got anything new?
Welcome back. I'm your host, Courtney, and I'm joined as always by my lovely co-host, Emily.
Hello, Courtney. Hey, listeners. This is going to be a big bunny episode, a larger-than-life episode. We're about to blow up this podcast.
I absolutely love it. And we are excited to welcome back our podcast pal, Jeff DiPaoli, host of Disney Coast to Coast. That's Disney with a Z. The show is a great grab bag of exclusive interviews, deep dives into theme park history and theming, as well as the latest in theme park news via the House of Mouse headline segments. Beyond Disney Coast to Coast, Jeff has expanded his reach to the Podcast Network, also home to That Halloween podcast to get you into the true spirit of the spooky season. Jeff celebrates the spooky season all year long as creative contributor to Creep It Real OC and Midsummer Scream, the world's largest Halloween and horror convention. And if that's not enough to keep him busy, Jeff is also a regular contributor to Attractions Magazine with his column DePaoli on DeParks, and you can find him as the voice of Disney Trivia on Alexa for Amazon Echo Dot's Kids Edition. Welcome, Jeff.
Woo! I'm exhausted just hearing all that stuff. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Jeff, we're so happy to have you back on the show to talk about one of your favorite Disney franchises, the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise. And to get reacquainted with our listeners, when you were with us back on episode 54, can you tell us why you love the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise and Rick Moranis so much?
Oh gosh, is it that evident that I'm such a big fan? You know what? I grew up with this movie. First time I saw it was Disney Channel. I did not see actually, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, I saw it in theaters, which is what we're talking about today. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, first time was Disney Channel. So actually, that's a nice little bit of history for Honey, I Blew Up the Kid with me. First of the franchise seen on the big screen for me. And I was a kid obsessed with movie making, especially special effects, which at the time when I was a kid was like tangible, in-camera special effects, not like computer generated stuff. And Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was just full of that kind of stuff. And as far as my love of Rick Moranis, I think I owe a lot of that to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That was probably my introduction to him, and I loved him in it and like everything ever since. And he's the most like effortless actor on screen. Like, people just take him for granted, I think, because his work is so effortless. But yeah, he's phenomenal.
Well, we are delighted to have you back to share that. We did the junior novelization for Honey, I Shrunk the Kid, and then you informed us that there was a junior novelization for Honey, I Blew Up the Kid as well. So Emily has a little background information on this novel.
Going back to our previous episode we recorded together with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, we have the same author. So a lot of the information here is the same. So this is written by Bonnie Bryant Hiller. She worked on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids novelization with her husband, Neil W. Hiller, but this one is only credited to her. She also wrote novelizations for other franchises like Superman, The Karate Kid. She has Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, obviously, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, and Shipwrecked, among a lot of other books that she's written for elementary-aged readers. Honey, I Blew Up the Kid was published in January of 1992, so 7 months before the film's release in July, and is a reading level 4, so age 8, age 9, and published by Scholastic. Scholastic is the largest publisher of children's books in the world and claims about 90% of schools, both public and private, in the U.S. use their book club. All 50 states and 6 other countries also use Scholastic book fairs.
Thank you, Emily. And I think it's fair to say that this might be an underappreciated Disney film. So we always like to give a little synopsis or information. So we consulted Disney A to Z, our favorite Disney resource, and here's the entry for Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Quote, sequel to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Wayne Szalinski's new invention is a ray that expands molecules when they come into contact with electricity, with the unexpected experiment being his own young son, Adam. The toddler wanders in front of the ray and before long is 112 feet tall, getting even bigger each time he encounters electricity and heading straight for the bright lights of Las Vegas. Released on July 17th, 1992, directed by Randall Kleiser, 89 minutes, stars Rick Moranis, Marcia Strassman, Lloyd Bridges, Robert Oliveri, John Shea, and they didn't mention this in Disney A to Z, but Carrie Russell, I feel like that was a glaring omission. Also, it says, for the production, the filmmakers were given permission to block off Fremont Street in Las Vegas, also filmed in Simi Valley, California. Special effects wizards relied on both miniature sets and huge props, released on video in 1993. So a little bit of background there.
Can I tell you, every time I'm in Vegas on Fremont Street, I think of this movie.
How can you not?
Kid you not. And it's drastically different now because it has that like arch over it.
Yes.
Which it didn't have back, at the time of this film. And I still, every time I go, I think of this movie and I'm like, that's where giant, Adam Szalinski popped his head out. And
how cool is it though that even though Vegas has changed so much, it also hasn't changed at all. Like, it's incredibly recognizable. Even if you watch it now and it's your first time ever seeing Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, like, those neon signs because they're still there.
Totally. Absolutely.
So, Jeff, you already shared a little bit of your memories. This is the first of the franchise you saw in theaters. But any other memories we have? Courtney, do you remember the first time you saw this film?
I actually owned this on VHS. So this was one that my family had. I wouldn't say that it was in our rotation often, but it was the Vegas scene that I remembered most clearly. And then a very random recent memory. I, of course, watched the movie before recording the podcast. But earlier this year, I was on my honeymoon in Jamaica, and the TV channels were rather sparse there. There were a lot of different international channels. And one rainy afternoon, I happened to be flipping through and caught the last 20 minutes of Honey, I Blew Up the Kid because it was just on this Jamaican movie channel. So shout out to the country of Jamaica for being Honey, I Blew Up the Kid fans.
I mean, that is honeymoon material done.
It has honey in the name.
Totally. Absolutely. I will say that, I do remember seeing it in the theaters, and I do remember being excited for it because obviously I was a big Honey, I Shrunk the Kids fan. But I also remember buying one of the previewed VHS tapes from Blockbuster Video. So now my loves are melding, right? Honey, I Shrunk World and Blockbuster Video World. And the VHS copy I had was, it had that Blockbuster sticker on it saying this has been previously viewed, quality guaranteed, that sort of thing. So that's the VHS I grew up with. But I will say, when I was stupid and got rid of all of my VHS when I started replacing everything with DVD, I didn't have that. But I have since purchased another copy through eBay, and it was like the video store copy. So it was the one that they would play in the video stores. So like there's this little behind the scenes video at the beginning of it that you didn't get with like your home video version of it. So that's the VHS copy I own now.
What about you, Emily?
I really can't remember the first time I saw it. I have memories of like being in my living room, and I remember like the Vegas scenes, particularly when he's super tall and when the mom blows up to get him. Like, I remember that scene very vividly, even though the rest of the movie didn't quite come to me with this like watch until I started watching. I was like, okay, I remember that. But I always remember the scene where the mom blows up to get her son and then she punches the guy at the end. Like, that stuck with me. But I don't really remember like the first. I don't think I saw this in theaters. So I think my memories of this comes from either we borrowed from the video store or I saw it at friends' houses or on TV. I think in the franchise, though, the first movie was more on a rotation than either the second or third.
Let me ask you this, just because obviously I don't have a fair opinion, right? Like, I'm just obsessed with the franchise. What did you two think watching it as adults? It sounds like you don't watch it too often, so like a lot of it I'm sure was new to you. How did you feel about this movie?
I enjoyed it. I had fun. revisiting it, I feel like, you know, maybe some of the effects don't hold up as well with today's technology, but to me, that's part of the charm of revisiting films like this. I feel like picking a toddler to be the kid that blew up and introducing Adam is the perfect amount of chaos, like rather than blowing up one of the, you know, older kids.
Yeah, so I will say that you're right about the effects, but I will go even back in the day, some of the effects were just not good. When you watched it as much as I did on VHS, I mean, there were clearly points where the baby's holding a doll of his big brother, and you're just like, wow, that's not great. And then have you ever looked up, I'm sure you haven't because you're normal, but if you look up the kids, like the twins that played the baby in this film, they still look like the baby. Like it's
Oh my gosh.
like you can
Wow.
totally tell it's the same people.
I did look up to see if I figured it was twins, if they went on to do anything else. And really, this, as well as Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, is basically all that they've done. But I didn't look up what they look like now. So I will be doing that.
Oh, I'm looking. So for me, I think it's a really solid sequel. And even the special effects, I think the special effects in the first film hold up a little bit better. The practical effects,
Agreed.
I think, are a little stronger, even though you can recognize the stop motion and whatnot. But overall, I still really enjoy the effects. But something I've liked paying attention to this film, particularly because we're going to read the book, like I'm looking for plot, like what is happening, because we're going to compare it to a book. It's pretty seamless, like story wise, even though it's a stretch, like the molecules, it's like a balloon, like, and it's the waves from the TV that make him grow. Like that's a little bit of a stretch maybe, but they cover everything. Like they hit that he loves stuffing things in his pockets in the beginning of the film, and that makes sense why he's stuffing the kids in his pockets at the end. Like every little hint and crumb they drop about a tiny character thing gets used throughout the film. Like we know he loves ice cream. He ate 12 ice cream bars, so he steals the ice cream bar off the top of the ice cream truck. Like all of those little things measure up every single time. And there's nothing like, well, how did he get from point A to point B? Or if they did this, it would totally change the outcome. So storytelling wise, I think is really solid.
Yeah, the payoff is there, right? Like they plant a seed and then it pays off later. And yeah.
And I was just happy the whole cast was there.
Yes, even though Amy's only in it for like 6 minutes.
Okay, so something I read about that was the story that they borrowed to inspire this. They didn't have a storyline moving forward from the stories. I forget the original story's name. Oh my goodness, it's escaping me. That they just didn't have something written for her, but they're like, well, we can't ignore that they have a daughter. So they wrote in that she's going off to college, which would make sense given the timeline. This takes place, it's either 2 or 3 years after Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So she was in high school by then. So that would make sense that that's the next stage of her life, that she wouldn't be home.
I mean, and frankly, even if they wanted to, they could have just been like, yeah, she's in college and like never even had her in the movie. I think it's great that they had her in the movie. So I think it was probably the filmmakers kind of, you know, wanting to have her there. And I would assume she was grateful for, you know, the day of work, and she got paid for it. She got residuals for it. So good for her. And yeah, I'm happy that she was included. Now, she is not part of Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
I was going to ask that because I couldn't remember. Like, I know Adam's there. I know Nick is there. But I was like, wait, is Amy?
Well, she's at college, obviously.
Clearly.
So now we have a timeline of, for sure, where does this fall? Where does the attraction fall in relation to the movies?
Well, I think that's an interesting, you know, development in the story. And speaking of stories, we have the junior novelization and the film. Were there any major differences to you as you were reading it, or did you feel that it was mostly a faithful adaptation?
It was verbatim, which is so interesting compared to the last when we read Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Like that one really sped up and condensed the story. This story was condensed, but like even dialogue was verbatim.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty close. There were definitely some things, being a fanatic, that I noticed that were different that we'll get into. But I do want to mention, first of all, you know, that saying you can't judge a book by its cover. Well, let me tell you, if I was a kid at the Scholastic Book Fair and I saw the cover of this book with a Wayne Szalinski and his son's giant foot above him, getting ready to stomp on him, this book cover would 100% sell it to me.
Oh yeah, stomp on your parents.
I love this visual. It's so great. But one of the first things on page 3, it says in the book, for some reason, the machine just didn't blow things up as well as it shrank them. And this drove me nuts because, do you two know why this drives me nuts?
Well, they have to go get the shrink ray later. It's not the same machine.
No, this was just like conversation about the fact that he was having trouble blowing things up with the machine. And so a line is, for some reason, the machine just didn't blow things up as well as it shrank them. So meaning it was like the technology just wasn't there. But this drives me nuts. But then I'm also like, okay with it for 2 reasons. Let me explain. Do you remember how the first movie ends?
They blow up the turkey, right? For
They
Thanksgiving.
blow up the turkey and the Thanksgiving dinner, right? So at the end of the first movie, they do blow things up. And that's my biggest issue with the sequel in general, is they're like, no, we've seen him blow it up already. Like, so this pretending he can't blow stuff up is kind of annoying. But I will say the books do a better job justifying that than the movies, because the movies, it's blatant. He blows things up the end of the first movie, and then second movie, he has trouble blowing things up. The first book, I went back, does not end with the giant Thanksgiving dinner. So, therefore, if the books are their own separate universe, this actually makes more sense.
There's continuity.
Yes.
See, when you read that, the way I read it was, this machine blows things up or shrinks things better than blows things up, to me implies grammatically it's the same machine when it's not.
Machine, yeah. Although, did you know that it was the same machine? Well, actually, not in the second one, I guess. But they did use the same machine in like all the films, and they just like redesigned it a bit. Although the machine that blows things up is massive in the second movie, so that one is different. But yes, I understand what you're saying now. But yeah, so in any case, the books do a better job justifying, I would say.
True. Maybe if we knew what they wanted to blow up in the film, like we know he sells kind of the rights to his invention to a contracting company who has contracts with like the US government and the army and industries, whatever. But they never tell us exactly what it is that they want to blow up.
Yeah, we just see them testing it on that crystal.
They're like, the government demands this. And we're like, for what? So maybe you can blow up a turkey, but if you're trying to like enlarge machinery, that's totally different, maybe. So they could have had maybe a little bit of a better justification, like to your qualms about like, well, he's blown it up before. Maybe they could have easily addressed that, being like, well, Dad, you blew up our turkey. Yeah, but this is different because like a one-line throwaway could have done something.
Yeah, I think they think most people don't think about this as hard as I do. So, and they're probably right. But yeah, that actually is an easy justification if they did something, as you said. But even in the first, it's not like, what is he shrinking stuff for? I think he mentions, it's easier to pack or something if you can. But I think it's just more like, let's shrink.
Well, he has other crazy inventions for no rhyme or reason. Like he invents this whole thing to shave when like it's probably faster if you just use the razor and shave your own face.
But one thing I love about the book is we get names for these inventions.
That's true.
The Magishave.
The Magishave is the machine that we see at the beginning of the film where the helmet is shaving Wayne Szalinski. We don't get a name for that in the film. We also get the auto-tend playpen, which we know that there's a playpen in the movie, but we never hear it referred to as the auto-tend playpen. So I actually thought that was kind of a fun little difference in the book, is his inventions have names.
I do find that these junior novelizations, they give you some new details like that, but also the way that they are narrated or written in terms of the point of view, you get a little more introspective into how the characters are feeling. Like we get a bit of their thoughts or reactions. It's, I guess, a difference of, it's being shown and played out in the movie versus being told to us in the book.
Yeah, and I will say that the relationship between the parents were really interesting because, the mom shows a lot of concern for Wayne.
Yes.
And she's concerned about, how happy he is at work and stuff like that. And if you remember in the first movie or the first book, the parents are separated pretty much. So it shows that like their relationship is at a much better place in this second movie. And then another thing I noticed, and I kind of remembered this from the first book as well, is Wayne is I mean, if I read this book and didn't know that Rick Moranis played the role, I would never cast Rick Moranis in my head, because this character is so angry at times. And I remember that in the first book, he was a bit like, he had a bit of an ego in the first book. This one, he's pretty angry. And that's just not how Rick Moranis plays Wayne Szalinski. And it feels a bit off kilter to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do remember us discussing that last time around, just the characterization a little off. But it's, once you've seen the movie, it's impossible not to have those images in your head as you read it, with it being mostly verbatim, as Emily said.
The one difference that, for some reason, this was the major difference that stood out to me, was they don't sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. They sing a French lullaby instead, which I just want to know, like, why a French lullaby? Like, what brought that one to mind? I could see why she might pick a different one, but I was like, really? Alouette, chante, alouette. I was like, really? That one? I used to have to sing that in my French class. I just didn't think that would be
French
class.
French class.
She set us up, didn't she?
Set up perfectly. With the laugh and everything. Maybe that was her entry to it. She's like, we need to put a French thing in here. But I was just like, why is that the difference? To me, that was the one that stood out.
Because neither of those songs would have any rights issues, right? Alouette
that's
and
true.
Twinkle Little Star are both public domain, as far as I
don't know why she didn't just keep Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Like, why is that a detail to change?
Or was Alouette the original in the script? And
right, that's my guess.
Maybe they
Rick
changed
Moranis
it later.
was like, I don't want to sing these French words. Like,
or trying to sing it in French in Big Bunny's voice was just like a little too much.
Or the kid was like confused. Maybe the kid didn't know that song and it like wasn't reacting to it well. From what I understand, this kid was a bit of a trip to work with. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something like the kid just didn't respond to it correctly. And the mom was like, oh, he loves Twinkle Twinkle. All right, we'll sing Twinkle Twinkle.
Yeah, I feel like with this coming out 7 months ahead, they got some kind of script that was mostly finished. But of course, as we saw with the other book, changes were made between the writing of the book and the production of the movie.
There was also one big but small change in the text to dialogue in the film. Do either of you know?
I don't think I caught it.
Honey, I blew up the kid.
Oh, yes, is actually in the book, but he says blew up the baby in the film, right?
In the film, that is correct.
I got mad watching the movie because I always joke. I like when the title of the movie is said, like, it's just a bunch of hocus pocus. And so he's about to tell the mom, and I was like, he's going to say it. He's going to say it. And then he didn't say it.
I like it's the same delivery, though, from the first film.
Maybe this will help make you feel a little better. That was the original title of the movie.
Ah.
Honey, I Blew Up the Baby was the original name of the movie. I think they added the kid just to have kind of like the synergy with the original.
Yeah.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. But yeah, the original title was Honey, I Blew Up the Baby.
Interesting.
And also, let's just talk about the phraseology of that. That's really weird, talking about blowing up babies.
Yeah, that sounds
Kids
a little
even.
darker than kids.
So, yeah, but that's in the book it's written, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Whereas in the movie, he says, Honey, I Blew Up the Baby.
Phoebe Hiller was like, I'm not going to have this nonsense. We're quoting the title.
So any favorite scenes that we have from this film? And then, like, how did they portray that scene in the book?
I think we've kind of touched upon, like, one of the more memorable moments in the film is, like, the whole Vegas sequence. And I say sequence because it feels like it's a good chunk of the film.
Yeah, you're there for a while.
Yeah, and this book does a really good job. I don't want to say glossing over it, but like it's a pretty short moment, like to the point that I'm reading the book, and listen, it's a junior novelization. It's not that long, but I'm like, I feel like I'm almost at the end and like we haven't even gotten to Vegas yet. So the Vegas stuff is kind of a blip.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, that I feel like we all kind of tipped our hand that the Vegas scene was among our favorites. It's the one that stuck with us for years. But I feel like it's hard to translate something like that into the book because it's just such a visually stunning scene. Like you can't really just describe the Fremont Street to the,
Yeah.
they try, but it's not going to have that same effect as when you see that on screen.
Yeah, and I will say that, in screenplays, I think the rule in general with dialogue in a screenplay is 1 page is 1 minute of film, but if it's 1 page of action, it's 3 minutes of film. So, I mean, that would make the same sense in a book, right? Like
Yes.
1 page of, writing an action sequence is much different than viewing it.
So a scene I want to talk about, I don't know if I would say it's my favorite scene, but I am a high school teacher. Teenagers are so funny to me. And the scene where he's working at the water park and he's trying to talk to Mandy and she calls him Rick instead of Nick, and the friends are there, and that awkward moment, that gets played we got like a flashback more so in the book. Like Nick's already at home. He's like, oh, it was such a day. I tried talking to Mandy today and she just didn't know my name. And it like really blows through it. But I love that scene in the movie because it's like that right amount of quirky, but also awkwardness. But I'm that person that gets like, also feels awkward at awkward moments, but it's like that right level of awkward that I can sit through it. But I love that scene because for some reason watching it this time, I was like, this reminds me so much of The Sandlot. I don't know why I equated the two like pool things, but like just that like kid staring at the girl he's in love with at the pool and gets embarrassed in front of his friends. It just like came to me, and I don't know why that came, but I loved that.
I definitely had a crush on both Nick and Mandy in this movie when I was a kid. And so like
they're so cute.
Oh my God, they're adorable. And I was upset when she was like not nice to him.
Yes.
So at the end of the movie when they're like together, spoiler alert, I was like so happy. I was like, they belong together. And I loved Kerry Russell from MMC, the all new Mickey Mouse
I was going to ask, I remember it coming up that I believe you are a big Felicity fan. Does that tie to this film, or it was MMC that introduced you to her and then you were excited to see her show up here?
I think MMC introduced me, and then I loved her in this. Although maybe this was my introduction to her, and I was like, they were pretty much around the same time, I would say. So there's that, and then that may be why I tuned into Felicity. I don't know, but that's just a damn good show if you haven't seen it.
And then that led you to the Twilight Zone. Like it's a whole Easter egg,
which led me to the Tower of Terror. So
there you go.
I love that
The
you
layers.
remember that weird little fact about me.
Well, we've been listening to your show for a long time, Jeff.
I don't think there's anybody else in this world who watched the Twilight Zone because of Felicity. If there is, write in and let me know, because I'd love to meet you.
We will forward any emails that we get.
I also loved her character when she comes over to babysit. And again, because I work with teenagers, like her delivery on all of this is just so spot on for me, because this is how my students communicate. When she's like, I charge this much per hour unless you want me to change a diaper or do this. In that case,
kids charge now, though. She charges $2.50 an hour. Do you know?
I know, right?
What is the going rate for babysitting? Because I feel like it was $5 an hour.
At least $30 an hour now.
Oh
yeah, at least 10 or 15 at minimum. But still, like her delivery of that, and also super dramatic when comedic, but when they pan back in and she's like tied to the chair to keep her from running away. I was like, okay, Nick, a little far for your like, it's kind of surprising coming from Nick. Like, wow, he's so shy to talk to her. But then he like this moment, okay, no, have to tie her up so she doesn't rat on my dad. I thought that was very dramatic, but the comedic delivery was great.
Maybe it plays into their relationship a bit later on. Who knows?
That's a whole different sequel. But do they show up in Honey We Shrunk Ourselves?
No. So Honey We Shrunk Ourselves, the kids are off at school living their own life. The only one still around is Adam. And Adam is played by a different actor. It's played by Bug Hall of Little Rascals fame.
Interesting. Well, if we find a junior novelization for that, you are certainly welcome back.
Yeah, I don't think that exists.
Because that was a direct-to-video release, right? That didn't get theatrical. Yeah.
And
now that one I have memories of.
Yeah, that one's tough for me. I was at an age where I couldn't just take it for face value. And I was, it's very CG heavy, and I missed those practical effects very much. That's, partially what made me fall in love with the original film. So to have a lot of computer generated stuff really kind of bugged me with the the final film. And then I never like when roles of characters I love are recast. And not only is Adam recast, which is kind of typical for children, but the mom is recast.
Oh, I didn't realize.
And the mom is kind of nasty in the third film. Like
Oh.
their marital troubles definitely return in that third movie, and she's just like feisty. So
But third movie's the whole reason I know that there's potassium in bananas.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, same here.
That's the whole reason I know that.
Same here. Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that at least the first two in this trilogy are, somewhat the epitome of a millennial childhood and memories. Is there anything in the film that we're discussing that made you feel nostalgic for that time period?
I feel like the film does a really good job not living during a certain time period. I don't think there's any, well, it's one thing that's kind of the time. In the movie, we'd see Richard Simmons on the TV screen doing some exercises when the kid blows up some more. In the book, he's described as a man on the screen began exercising. So they do not name Richard Simmons by name. But I would say that was very early 90s, right? He had a lot of VHS tapes out. I feel like he was everywhere. And for people young listening who don't know who Richard Simmons is, he was a sassy exercise instructor with an afro, and he was white. And he's still around somewhere. I hope he's doing well.
For me, a lot of what I found nostalgic about it was just the overall style of the 90s. Like, they didn't play into the 90s, like, particularly, like, really trying to hype it up, like you said. But, like, I always wished I could pull off, like, the overalls with the headband like Carrie Russell does, and I just couldn't as a kid. So, like, I felt nostalgic for that moment, and some of these styles are coming back. The way their house is, like the different wallpapers, the types of furniture, like I felt like I was at my parents' house or at my aunt and uncle's house. Like just those things that were very common, just the style and livelihood of it. I was like, this, you can tell it's 90s if you lived through it. But if you didn't, there's nothing necessarily that screams to you like 90s, other than maybe those pop culture references.
I don't know that this is necessarily a nostalgia thing for me personally, but one that I find interesting. I find the history of Vegas fascinating, and so there were a lot of shots of casinos and resorts that were then later demolished as Vegas became what it is today. That a lot of that happened in the mid-90s. Like you get the Venetian and some of the bigger resorts. So getting to see things like I caught the Stardust. I was like, oh, that one's not around anymore. That was fun for me to observe.
I will say, you were talking about the house a bit earlier. I was a little sad, I remember, when this movie came out and they didn't live in the same neighborhood. Because, I would love to revisit the neighbors.
Yes.
Okay, we're the
And
Thompsons.
yeah, the Thompson kids. I would love to revisit them. I get why. I mean, they had to get to Vegas, right? That's how he blows up. Those neon lights, like that is a major story point. So they had to get him there. It also makes sense, right? Rick or Wayne had success with the shrinking machine. He got some money. He's living a nicer lifestyle. So it all makes sense as to why they'd be in a different home. But I definitely was a little sad. I remember as a kid, like, oh, where's the home I know and love?
He couldn't have been on like a convention trip. Like, we're here for the next 2 weeks while I work with so-and-so.
There you go. Where were you in the writer's room?
It was 1992. I was a month old by the time it came out.
I will say that there's actually mention of the old home in the novelization, though, isn't there?
Yeah.
Amy talks about, going to school in California, which I don't think these details are in the movie, but she says she's going to California. She's like, it's not far from our old home. And actually, like, that made my heart a little warm. I was like, oh my God, she's going back to her old neighborhood. Like, that's so lovely. So.
And speaking of those references, like this does take place 3 years after the events of the film. We have this continuation. What did we think about their continued story?
I mean, other than the whole blowing up thing not working, like that continuity error drives me up the wall. I just have to accept it, or else I would hate this franchise. But it is inconsistent to a level that is stupid. Other than that, I think the characters, are all true to themselves. I think it's nice to see the marriage is going a lot better, because that was obviously something that they had to work through in the first movie. I like it. I'm a big fan. And the reason I asked you whether or not you liked it watching it with like adult eyes without the nostalgia that I have is because I remember this was probably 6 or 7 years ago at this point. I saw Honey, I Shrunk the Kids on the big screen for the first time, and I saw it with a buddy, and we were just kind of I reminded him just how damn good the movie is. He was like, "That was really fun." I'm like, "We should watch the sequel," and we watched the sequel, and he like kind of hated it.
Aw.
And I was like, "Why do you hate this?" He's like, "Dude, this is not nearly as good as the original film." I'm like, "Well, no, the original's amazing." But
I've
I'm like,
seen worse sequels for sure.
I don't hate the sequel at
Yeah.
all. And so that's why I was curious. I'm like, maybe it's not good, and I just can't take those rose-colored glasses off for this circumstance.
No, I'd absolutely set these up as a double feature. I mean, I didn't revisit Honey, I Shrunk the Kids before going back to this one, just timing-wise. But, fun little Saturday afternoon, put it on, watch them back to back, then find a YouTube clip of, like, Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, and we'll just call that the trilogy.
I love Honey, I Shrunk the Audience.
It
I
was
think
fun.
That was good.
Yeah, and that's another nice thing. We see Wayne accepting an award, like, so that was 1994. So that was just 2 years after Honey, We Blew Up the Kid. And then Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves was
That's 97, I think.
97. So yeah, gosh, they're all so old at this point. Holy moly.
Yeah.
So 89 to 92 to 94 to 97. That was a pretty short windows, just a few years between each of them.
Right. When you think of something like we're still getting Indiana Jones films to this day.
And oh gosh, no, who knows what's going to happen with Shrunk, right? Like that's
because
supposedly still on the table.
Rick Moranis is supposed to come back for that if it goes through, right?
Yeah, and supposedly, like, that film was ready to begin rolling. Like, the sets were built, and the pandemic shut it down. So they never got to shoot any of it. But, like, apparently, I believe in Atlanta, like, stuff was ready. Josh Gad was getting ready to go. Pandemic shut it down, and then Josh Gad's career has just been all over the place since then, and hasn't happened. That's the story I hear. How true it is or isn't, I'm not sure.
Well, fingers crossed that we eventually get it, because I'd like to see these characters continue.
Yeah, I think what made the Succession, like the storyline continuing, also successful was they did stick to the gaps that the movies came out is the same gaps of the writing. So like they looked like they should be 2 years older. They didn't look like, oh, it's been 2 years, but like you look like it's been 7. Like it really, I feel like since they followed that, it felt so seamless. And how much they do reference the second or the first film, because I feel like some continuations now, sometimes they try to make them very standalone. Like, yes, it's a sequel, but you could watch it on its own. And you can with this, but I like how much they reference. Remember when we shrunk in the attic? These things happened. This is how we're going to reverse it. Like, I like that they gave enough knowledge in there to truly make this, like, this is very much tied to the first film. It is a sequel. And it, like you said, they're very true to their characters. Like Nick is very much Nick, even though he's older and plays guitar now.
I remember seeing the van. I always loved the solar powered van. And I remember seeing it on the studio tour at Disney MGM Studios. And that was like my world. I was like, yes.
Then you get to go to the playground right after. Like you're just living your best life there.
And people wonder why it's my favorite park, right? I can't let go of that stuff. Oh, no. So good.
Well, on the novelization front, I'd like to know, now that we've read these two novels, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, which of the two novelizations did you like better, films aside?
Definitely. Well, films aside, I was going to say definitely the first. And the reasoning was because I just loved how different it was from the film.
Yeah.
But if films aside, I don't know. Does that count? I'm not sure.
I think that's fair. Like you're going to think about it in terms of the film, but it's not because you like that film better. It's more because of like the other glimpses into, I guess, the script development that you got from it.
Correct. It was very, very, very different. Speaking of different, though, well, when you answer the question you just asked as well, do one of you want to touch upon how there's multiple children's versions of this book because we had a little bit of chaos?
Let's get into that because that was less than 24 hours ago in a panicked text message exchange. So Jeff owns a copy of the B.B. Hiller and, same author. as the last time. Last time Emily and I both ordered used copies of the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids novelization that remain in our collection to this day. But this time around, we happened to find a copy online through the Internet Archive, which lets you read PDF scans of books. And I noticed it was a different author, but it had the cover. It looked like the cover that Jeff had. The author's
publisher
font
information was the same.
Still Scholastic.
Still Scholastic, 1992. So same publication.
But it's 225 pages versus 86. And I will say, I got almost 100 pages into that one before I found out I was reading the wrong one. And luckily a PDF is also available of the correct one. But Jeff, you might want to look to add this one to your collection and visit it.
Say, how was it?
It was way more detailed because that one's really streamlined. It's like it's getting into the minutia of the film.
So we figured out we had different versions because Courtney and I were both logged in. We found out at the same time to Internet Archive to read, and Courtney's like, "Oh, I'm trying to read, but it's locking me out. Are you logged in right now?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." "Oh, you're further than me. I'll log out. You finish the book." And then I was like searching, like maybe I can find another copy. And I was like, oh, I found a different site I can read it on. So you can finish on Internet Archive because it said I had checked it out. So Courtney couldn't check it out. And then I'll go read this other one. And then I'm scrolling through the other one. I'm like, why is this one only 45 pages when that one was 225? And then I went back and looked. I was like, these are two different authors.
And it was two different opening pages.
Yeah,
so.
And I read the first page and I was like, this is not the same thing. Because the Todd Strasser, it opens with the women who are like power walking around the neighborhood and like it gives you the whole details.
All of the mailbox scene.
The mailboxes, like all of that's there. I only read the first like 2 chapters. So it really got deep into it. Whereas like this one picks up right away with, I gotta take the kids. So right away, I was like, oh my gosh, there's 2 versions. And I think this is what I'm predicting. I am not an elementary reading teacher, but knowing Scholastic that you have books for grade levels, I'm just wondering if they had different grade level readings of the same thing. Because this is meant to advertise this new movie coming out. Scholastic book fairs are in like that winter, January to March. This is coming out in July. It's a perfect opportunity to advertise this. And if you want to reach multiple readers, like your 7th graders aren't going to reach for a 4th grade book.
I was going to say, this really felt like middle grade to me, whereas the other one was definitely more elementary school. So, Jeff, I'm sure you like to collect. I think it would be worth seeking this one out if you can find a decent used copy because it was very detailed.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I actually have 2 versions of the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids book because the one we reviewed is the more adult version, even though it's the same level as the Honey, I Blew Up the Kid that we ultimately read. But there's like a very kiddie picture book version of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, okay.
There was also a picture book version of Honey, I Blew Up the Kids by the initials are MT of the author. I can't remember the exact name, but I know it's MT.
I may have mentioned this last time. I can't remember, but I'm still trying to find the read-along book of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids where it came with a cassette where Nick Szalinski told the story. And when you hear the chimes, turn the page.
Ding.
That is like hard to find. And if anybody
all right,
else
friends, every garage sale,
seriously,
flea market.
And if you find the Hocus Pocus Junior novelization, I still want that.
Yeah, that as well.
But when it comes to the novel I liked better, as a reader, I think I still like the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids better just because the kids' perspective I think was more exciting. We spend more time with the kids in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids than we do with Adam, because Adam's a toddler. There's not much he can portray even on a book page. So you actually get a lot more time with Wayne, which that's not a problem. But I think I liked, like, as a kid reader, if I was reading this, I would have liked.
You be careful.
I'm sorry. I think I like, but the action of going through the backyard and meeting the ants, like, I think that was more exciting to me as a reader. Now, if we're comparing which novelization was better in terms of, like, would pump you up for the film, I think if I read the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids book and then saw the film and saw how different they were, I'd be mad. Like, that's not what I remember. We like it now, being like, wow, that was nice contrast. I liked the variety. But I think if I was, like, getting pumped to see this film for the first time and I read this book like ready to see it, and then it doesn't match. Like, I still get mad when some of my favorite books are turned into TV movies and they like ruin a character or something.
You just
So
take Peeves out of Harry Potter, and then you get peeved because they took out Peeves.
Was the other version of the book as close to the movie? You said there was a lot more detail and stuff. Was it still very literal to the film?
It was just, you're getting more scene by scene. Like Emily said, like it's literally describing the opening scene of the film. But I didn't notice. I got to about 7 chapters in, and didn't see any major differences. I mean, you might have a more minute eye for that. But overall, similar, just longer.
I wonder if the second time around, like maybe writing Honey, I Shrunk the Kids novelization, how many more script rewrites and things they changed before the final film, whereas now you kind of have, what your franchise is going into a second one. Like, what are the things we want to keep? What are the things we want to do? Maybe they did a little less rewriting or less changing, or they came out closer together. I'm not sure. I don't remember the timeline off the top of my head when the first novelization came out compared to the film. I know it was within the same year, though.
I think it was similar, like a 7-month lead time.
Yeah. I just wonder if maybe they didn't make as many changes, so why this one can be more verbatim, just matching to the film.
Production timelines. Because I think you had a good point about the timing of book fairs. They're usually, I believe, in the springtime. So if this was, fresh off the press and then the film was coming out as a summer blockbuster, that makes sense.
How did this film do? I was just thinking. I don't think this one was nearly as big a hit as the first one.
The Disney A to Z didn't mention that, and sometimes they do. So I feel like when they don't mention it, it's not a good sign.
You know why a lot of people equate the success to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids to, right?
The Roger Rabbit short, right?
The Roger Rabbit short, as well as it came out with Batman, and Batman was selling out.
So then they showed up at the movies. They need to see something.
Yeah.
Okay, so according to a Google search, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid made $96 million, but compared to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids that made $222 million in the United States, that's a very big difference.
Should have put a Roger Rabbit short in it. There wasn't, right?
It is a big difference, but that also, I mean, they made money. There's no way the film so it was profitable, but yeah, not nearly as big as the first one, and who knows if there's any truth to those theories.
Oh, it was only a worldwide total of 96 million. It was about 60 million in the US. But no, it did not have a Roger Rabbit, because I double checked after our Roger Rabbit episode that we recorded on Disney Coast to Coast. I remembered, like, oh yeah, there's a Roger Rabbit with Honey, I Shrunk something, and I double checked which film. And I was like, no, wasn't with. I was hoping maybe a different one, maybe a second got with this one, but nope, only with Honey, I Shrunk the Kids had a Roger Rabbit film.
Roger Rabbit cash cow was running out, I guess.
Yeah, I was probably in its legal problems at that point.
I was gonna say, you had like a few years.
1992, we've got, if they made a Beauty and the Beast, maybe short to go in the beginning of it, could have done it. Maybe, I don't know. Because by then, Disney, the whole Renaissance is in full swing.
Yep.
Their priorities were elsewhere.
All right, so maybe we're tipping our hands here, but is there a film we like better between Shrunk or Blew Up?
It's Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah.
But as we said, this is a sequel with merit, for sure.
Yeah, I also just think like the shrinking is so much more fun because like these kids are on an adventure that nobody else knows about.
Yes.
Whereas when you're blowing up the kid, it's like you can't keep that hidden. And maybe there's some excitement that comes with that, but I don't know. I thought it was more fun when, and also I'm not a parent, so I have no idea what this would feel like. Both would suck, but at least you know where your kid is when he's a giant.
That is absolutely fair.
I think the adventure is better too. Like with Shrunk the Kids, you got to reimagine what your backyard could be like. Mm-hmm. Whereas the setting doesn't get reimagined. Like Vegas is Vegas. Like, yes, you're bigger, but now suddenly, like a Lego block isn't a hotel. Like that imagination, I think, is just not quite at the same level, even though it was still a very fun film and I enjoyed it.
I'd like to go down a little imagination route here as we wrap up. We have talked about the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise and the theme parks a bit already, but do you think that there's a way to resurrect the franchise back in the parks? I mean, I'm all for bringing back the playground because I have so many good memories there.
I mean, I keep saying, I've said for a while that when they do their like 80s and 90s nostalgia nights in the park, I want a Wayne Szalinski meet and greet, like really, really badly.
Yeah, for me, I think a great place to bring that back, though, that we can do maybe without a theme night is it's time to reimagine the Imagination Pavilion. And I like that entryway that they have. This is the, the Imagination Labs. And here are, we have Wayne Szalinski. We have, oh my goodness, Flubber. Name is...
It's Robin Williams. I don't know the name of his character.
Oh my goodness, the name... It just flew out of my head.
You could make up a name and I would believe you. So Flubber did not do well.
But I think there's an opportunity there to do more with it, even if it's, hey, here's the shrink ray, it's in the attraction. Like, or you could play more with that in that pavilion, I think would be a great place because it's already there and people see it and they're like, oh, I love it. But I think you could do more.
I mean, they've brought back Soarin' Over California to Walt Disney World. That's running right now, and they do that at Disney California Adventure from time to time. It can't be that hard to put in Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, even if it was just for like a limited event, like you said, Jeff. Like, switch over the film. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know how audiences would respond to that. I think we're definitely at a point where like kids don't really know the franchise. So, I mean, listen, I want as much of it as possible. I just don't think the company would ever do it unless Shrunk is made and it's a huge hit. But let's face it, it would star Josh Gad.
Yeah, I think doing a limited time Honey, I Shrunk the Audience would make most sense in the situation you described. Like, okay, we're doing 80s, 90s night at Disneyland. Is there anything in that theater currently?
At Disneyland? No.
Like, they had the Path of the Jedi was probably the last thing. Like, they were showing that little Star Wars movie.
Yeah, that thing's been empty for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not even safe to be in there anymore.
They got to clean it out a little bit.
Yeah.
But that'd be fun. I think I would love to see an 80s or 90s night event at Epcot if you wanted to bring themed events over to the other coast.
We should mention you can still see Wayne Szalinski in the queue for Journey into Imagination with Figment. And I will say, heartbreaking, I did not get to see him this past October because that attraction was shut down, broken down the entire day I was there.
That's a bummer. Well, good excuse to come back for sure.
Honey, I hope I didn't say this in the last podcast, and I feel like I'm brilliant now, but I'm repeating what I said before. But maybe a great place, like if we were going to bring back the playground, maybe it's time to redo some of our All-Star resorts.
100%.
One of the sections of All-Star movies, turn that into Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Look, if Mighty Ducks has a section, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids can have a section.
I think it'd be a great place to do it right now. Every couple years, maybe, or every couple of decades at this point. Maybe it's time to pick some new films to put into these places.
All I'm saying is Journey to Water is fine. I'm all for like Journey to the Backyard.
Yeah.
And just shrunk down backyard stuff. And you know what? I feel like I saw a little Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set playground adventure tribute in Toy Story Land the last time I was there.
Oh, really?
And like the food.
That makes sense. You're shrunk to the size of a toy in a backyard.
I mean, I'm pissed that
the grass blades.
The grass blades they should have used. I've said that many times.
So true.
But I saw a giant Oreo in like the lunchbox sort of thing. And whether or not that was a tribute to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, I have no idea. But in my mind, it is.
In our hearts, it lives on.
Totally.
Well, as we wrap up, we always like to leave a few little recommended resources or things for fans to check out if you want to go deeper. I wanted to add here that Bruce Broughton did the score for this film, and then they used that
score, which you can still hear at the Imagination.
Yes, so still has a presence in the parks, even though Honey, I Shrunk the Audience isn't there. But if you're interested in his development for this score, as well as the many other scores that he's done for both Disney films as well as theme parks, our friends over at the Tomorrow Society with Dan Heaton, as well as Notably Disney with Brett Nachman. Both of those fine gentlemen have interviewed Bruce on their shows, so I thought that would be a fun little thing for you to seek out if you wanted more on the score.
And I wanted to point out, as Jeff and I have talked about, like, the practical effects are just so cool from this time period. So some of the ones that it reminded me of was also like The Parent Trap, even with Lindsay Lohan, just how you use that double screening of how you layer film to have multiple people or different sizes. So go back and rewatch Parent Trap, Roger Rabbit, Mary Poppins, just to get that love for those practical effects that, yes, we can tell now, but I feel like they still stand up so well. And it made me want to go back and rewatch those films that have such great practical effects.
And Jeff, as the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids franchise super fan, any fun references maybe on your own show or that you've discovered across the years you'd like to recommend?
Well, I will say I do remember the making of Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, which was a Disney Channel special. And I'm on YouTube right now trying to see if I can find it. I'm not finding it super, super easily here. But there are quite a few videos related to Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, so go check that out. But yeah, there was an amazing making of special for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids on Disney Channel, which I think we talked about, that was hosted by Rick Moranis. But the second film, like, they did this gimmick of the making of Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, and it was weird, but still worth checking out if you can get your hands on that somewhere.
Yeah, we'll try to track it down, and if we find it, we'll put it in the show notes for sure.
And of course, I'm always talking shrunk stuff. On
Nearly every episode of Disney Coast to Coast, I think.
If it's a drinking game, you're drunk.
Some way you're drunk and you're shrunk.
You're drunk and you're shrunk. I like that.
I think that's you need a little t-shirt or something for that. So we're glad to have given you a whole platform to talk about it here. For our listeners, though, we do have one more episode left for all of you this year. We'll be getting into the holiday spirit with How the Villains Ruined Christmas. From Serena Valentino, author of the New York Times bestselling Disney Villain series, comes a new holiday picture book for young Disney fans. No one is more of a bah humbug than a Disney villain. This Christmas, Maleficent, Hades, Captain Hook, the Queen, Ursula, and Cruella are planning to ruin the holiday season once and for all. Join these dastardly Disney characters as they cause some Christmas chaos by sending their minions to ruin Christmas dinner, steal the Lost Boys' presents, disguise themselves as Santa Claus, and more. In the meantime, though, you can keep up with Book of the Mouse Club on Twitter and Instagram at Book of the Mouse. Email us with comments or ideas to bookofthemouseclub@gmail.com. And please be sure to leave us a review on iTunes so others can find our podcast and read and listen along with us. If you want to keep up with me, Courtney, I'm at Courtney_Guth on Twitter and at Great Guthsby on Instagram.
And you can follow me, Emily, on Instagram and Twitter at Emily_McD. Jeff, where can listeners keep up with you, Disney Coast to Coast, and all the fun things you're involved with?
Yeah, thank you. So DisneyCoastToCoast.com is home base. If you spell it with the S or the Z, you'll get there, DisneyCoastToCoast.com. If you're searching on wherever you're listening to podcasts, make sure you search Disney with a Z, Coast to Coast. And as far as me on social media, it's just at Jeff DiPaoli wherever I am. These days, Instagram is where I am most active. So that's Jeff, Jeff, DiPaoli, D as in dog, E, P as in Paul, AOLI.
Wonderful. We'll include links to all of those in our show notes. And thank you again for joining us. As our special guest, we always like to have our guests of honor leave our listeners with a quote. What have you selected for us?
With the holidays around the corner, I thought I would choose a classic that I love. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more.
Aw, a little unexpected one there, but kicks us off very well for our final episode of the year. So thank you for being here with us today, and I'm sure we'll find another way to have you back.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Book of the Mouse Club has no affiliation with the Walt Disney Company. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and participants are theirs and theirs alone. They do not represent the organizations or companies they happen to work for.